The topic of marriage, especially when you're over 40 and you're a woman, is something that can be touchy, I think, for many of us. It certainly has been touchy for me.
Fans of Good Day know Dr. Jen Caudle. She's joined us live throughout the pandemic to talk about new developments, living a healthy life, and much more. But now she's sharing a different side of herself with fans.
Yes, in a recent YouTube video, she opened up about her personal life and what it's like being unmarried and over 40. And she's far from alone because, as we reported before, many women have delayed marriage to focus on their career, or it just happens. It just turns out that way. And recent studies have shown that most Americans are marrying later in life than previous generations.
Dr. Jen joins us live to share more of her story about living single, what the future holds, and the advice she would give her younger self. Good morning, Dr. Jen. Good to see you.
Good morning, ladies. It is so great to see you all.
And boy, did you open up. I watched it almost 20 minutes long. Dr. Jen, tell me why and why now?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, I have to be honest with you. After I shot the video, I wondered if I literally had made the biggest mistake of my life. It was just something that had come over me at the time. A lot of people do ask me if I'm married, you know, do I have kids, etc. And it was something on my heart that I felt like it was important to talk about because I'd often felt a lot of shame with being over the age of 40 and being single. And what I learned from doing this video, from women reaching out to me, is that I guess I wasn't the only one.
What's been the most frustrating part? And what I mean by that is a lot of times women are perfectly happy being single and waiting for that person, right? It's best to marry the right person than the wrong one and be miserable. But it's the asking of questions. It's people feeling sorry for you. So what for you has been the most frustrating?
So the hardest thing for me, and I talk about it in the video, was that you know, I felt like there was a stigma. Like if I'm over the age of 40 and not married, it's kind of like, what's wrong with her? Is she unwell? Is she crazy? Is she too picky? Is she, you know, there must be something wrong with her. That is what I had often felt. And that's where a lot of the embarrassment and shame came from, because I felt like people were like, well, there must be something wrong with you. And the truth of the matter is, and I talk about this in the video, for a long time I carried that sort of embarrassment and I beat myself up for it. I went through periods of being very anxious over being single and regretful, like what was I doing in my 20s and 30s? But I finally realized, you know, it was not long ago during the pandemic, I realized, you know what? I just haven't met him yet. It's just not been my path that I am married and have found the love of my life. And I trust that I will meet him. I pray to God that I will. But I had to accept that my path is not the path of everyone else's. Yeah. And once I realized that, it changed everything for me.
We should mention really quickly, and you talk about this in this video, you were engaged briefly, and you said you made the choice to end it and you haven't looked back ever since. So this has been a very conscious choice on your part in terms of making sure you pick the right one.
Absolutely. No, I'm glad that you mentioned that. Yeah, I was engaged about 3 or 4 years ago. That was not the right situation. I did end it. So no, I've tried to be thoughtful about things, but at the same time, you know, you can still have regrets. So, you know, something else I mentioned too is that I've tried to do things to help. I've frozen my eggs. I've been public about talking about that because I didn't think that was a thing, and I realized how many other women were going through the same process. I'm online dating. I'm just like anyone else, and I think my biggest message to women out there is, you know, you're not alone and there's nothing wrong with you, and just be hopeful and understanding that our paths are not all identical. We all come into things at different times.
Yeah, we do. Acceptance is so important. I don't know if you read the comments, but there were a couple of gentlemen who said, hey, I'm in my 40s, I'm single, I'm having the same issue. So you may have some suitors there. And then also there were two men, one a doctor who said that he believes you intimidate men because you're a physician. And I wanted to get your take on that argument.
That's so interesting. And by the way, thank you for reading the comments, because I don't think I've seen all those comments myself.
All in your business, Dr. Jen.
Well, I appreciate you. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. Yeah. Well, let me just make a brief point about your first comment. There are a lot of men in the comments. Yes, some that are presenting themselves as possible suitors. But what I learned was that more men than I ever thought were saying, hey, I'm so glad you're talking about this. Men feel this way too. So this is a message that I realize is not just for women, but it's for men as well, that men often feel this way. But the other thing is that you were asking about is intimidating people. Well, You know, I guess I never thought about myself as being intimidating. What I always try to focus on is just being the best person I can be, and being kind and loving and generous and giving and all the things I would want someone to be to me. And I also think that goes back to, you know, as people, we're always trying to do the best for others as ourselves. But that's why it's also important to get to know people. For me to get to know others and for others to get to know me too. So get to know me. I don't bite.
He's coming.
Yeah.
Get ready.
Yeah.
He's coming.
I hope.
We only ask that you share that journey, that part of the journey with us too. All right? It's not an exclusive.
Yeah, I want to be at the wedding too.
I mean, since we're asking, I'll ask to be a bridesmaid. I mean, putting our requests in now.
I love it. I love it.
Thank you for the refreshing video, by the way, Dr. Jen. We always appreciate you. And then, of course, if you'd like to watch the full video, just go to her YouTube page right there.